Greetings, mortals. It is I, Remortis, bringing you another guide for Baldur's Gate 3, this time on party roles and compositions. There are many roles within Dungeons & Dragons and Baldur's Gate 3, and with careful planning, you'll be able to conquer any challenge set before you. Of course, any party combination is fine, as there are many ways to cover a particular role, especially when considering items and consumables. We'll get into all of that, as well as companions and alignments, and lastly, some multiplayer combos. But don't worry, there will be timestamps below to skip to what's relevant to you. Let's begin then, shall we? Although, before we begin, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the unofficial Baldur's Gate 3 Wiki, which is a community-run wiki that's non-profit and will be continued to be worked on even after the flavor of the month, if you know what I mean. Anyhow, I'll be leaving links down below in the description, and this will be one of the main resources I'll be using as well. There are a variety of roles that each class can perform with differing levels of success. There are many ways to define a role, but I'll narrow it down to about 7 categories. And there's still more than that, trust me. We have the Frontline, Strikers, Blasters, Control, Support, Specialists, and the Face. And I'll go over which classes are better suited to a particular role. And do note that many classes can cover multiple roles at a time. Also, another caveat is that multi-classing can also help cover multiple roles, but to simplify this guide, we'll be using single classes for the majority of the video. Each of these categories are equally important in the different facets of the game. And even still, these categories are broad terms that can encompass even more roles within them. For the front line, these are your defenders and bruisers who fight on the, you guessed it, the front line. They go to engage the enemy toe-to-toe and prevent them from reaching your friends, or just to smash them where they stand. They tend to be durable and have ways to either avoid damage altogether or brush it off and keep on fighting. These can be your fighters, barbarians, paladins, clerics, shapeshifted druids, and to some extent, monks. Oh, and don't forget summons, of course. Strikers tend to flirt with the front line. No, not that kind of flirt. Characters who dart in and out of the front line dealing melee or ranged damage, while dishing out that damage or disabling targets and moving back to safety. They can also deal solid bursts of damage, although typically their damage is physical. These can be fulfilled by fighters, either the melee or archer variants, shapeshifted druids, rogues, rangers, monks, bards, and even warlocks. Blasters are typically spellcasters that can unleash devastation and massive destruction in their wake to a single target or many enemies at once, such as the wizard, sorcerer, cleric, druid, and with some creativity, the barbarian. The role of control is all about that, controlling the battlefield by providing crowd control or altering the battlefield to hinder or completely stop enemies in their tracks, allowing your party to keep on dealing with various threats and dishing out damage themselves. Typically be handled by wizards, sorcerers, clerics, druids, bards, and even rangers. Support aids the party through buffing your allies to make them stronger, debuffing enemies to make them weaker, or healing your allies either through mending raw hit points or removing nasty conditions such as poison, paralyzing, fear, etc. I'd also throw utility here as well, with effects or spells that can have its uses in combat and outside of it, such as teleporting, flying, invisibility, speaking to animals or the dead. You get the idea. This is usually taken care of by bards, clerics, druids, paladins, wizards, sorcerers, and to some extent, rangers as well. The Specialist is a very broad role that can handle multiple situations, typically out of combat, usually around various skills or reconnaissance, or somebody who can help disable traps and pick locks. Also somebody who's good at investigating through knowledge, or somebody who can stealth and scout up ahead. Specialists are typically rogues, bards, rangers, and monks, although wizards, warlocks, and sorcerers could handle some of these situations with various spells and skills at their disposal as well. And to some extent, barbarians can help unlock doors and chests too. And that brings us to the Face, or the talker, the negotiator, the one who can persuade, intimidate, deceive others, the face of the party. It's always nice to have at least one of these around to help get better prices, avoid fights, or even trick them to do your bidding. These are typically characters with high charisma, so your bards, paladins, sorcerers, warlocks, and again, sometimes the barbarian. And again, these are all simplifications of the various roles, and we can go into much more niche cases, but these shall cover most of the bases. Party composition is something to consider when forming a group. This is a team-based game after all, and the variety to cover different roles can help conquer anything that comes your way, as mentioned before. However, it isn't completely necessary because there are multiple ways to solve many problems, especially with the slew of items, consumables, and other things at our disposal. That said, play what you want. Bring who you want to bring. And that's the guide. Just kidding. But truly, at the end of the day, be what you want to be. Just because Lae'zel is a fighter and you want to bring her along doesn't mean you can't be a fighter too. Now we'll give a sample on the classic and traditional party: the fighter, the rogue, the cleric, and the wizard. The fighter can be your frontline and striker. The cleric can be a frontliner as well, or can also be a blaster or support, depending on how you build them. A rogue is typically a striker and specialist, and can also sometimes be a face. And the wizard can be a blaster, controller, and support. And unsurprisingly, we have a companion for each of these classes in Lae'zel, Asterion, Shadowheart, and Gale. A more versatile party that is still rather traditional could be the paladin, the bard, the druid, and the warlock. Where the paladin can replace the fighter to cover the frontline and striker roles, it can also be the support and a face. The bard can replace the rogue as the skill expert, and depending on the bard's build, can just be about any other role for that matter. But we'll get into that another time. The druid can replace the cleric and be the same roles as them, as well as many others, especially when combined with their shape-shifting abilities. And the warlock can take the place of the wizard to provide blasting and control, but could also be a specialist and could also be a face. That isn't to say that these classes are better than the others, they're just more versatile. Again, these are all examples of different party composition. That isn't to say you can't overlap the roles, or even classes. Sometimes you might need that extra frontliner, and sometimes you might need the extra controller blasting. You really only need one person to be a face, although more than one couldn't hurt, as you can't swap who is talking in a conversation. So even if a conversation starts and they begin talking to your fighter, for example, your bard or whoever can't step in to speak honeyed words. Typically a group would always want to have somebody who can pick some sort of lock, or, break them too. The thing to consider is that some encounters may have enemies who are resistant or even flat out immune to certain types of damage, such as things that are immune to non-magical damage, where your fighter or whoever will have to rely on other means to overcome that immunity. However, magical weapons do count to overcome that resistance or immunity, and they're back to being effective again. Variety and versatility is king, but again, play what you want and bring what you want to bring. Now onto the companions and alignment playthroughs. What I mean by this, without spoiling anything, is that some companions are inclined towards good actions and bad actions, such as protecting the innocent and doing what's right, and others only care about strength and maybe want to cause some mayhem. And before we get into this further, some characters can be swayed to either spectrum, so don't be afraid to take a character to any party. Just be warned that oftentimes there will be conflicts with certain characters. But if you already have an idea of what kind of playthrough you want to go for, like whether it's good or bad, consider the following. For a good style playthrough, you might want to grab Karlach the Barbarian as your frontline and striker. Shadowheart as your cleric could be your support and also be a frontline, while Gale the Wizard can be a blaster, controller, and utility type person, leaving you to be a specialist or a face type character. Of course, you could bring Will if you'd rather replace one of the other characters. For an evil style playthrough, you could have Lae'zel be your frontline, Asterion be your specialist, and Will in your team to handle what you might be lacking. Of course, there are other characters that are unlocked by choosing certain paths in the story, but I won't go into that and spoil that for you for now, especially if you've been trying to hide from all of that. And again, many of these characters can be swayed to either side of the fence, in terms of good or bad. Now let's move on to the multiplayer combinations. That is, different players using builds that synergize well with each other. And these can totally be handled by your companions too, if you're not playing with friends. Though, some may need help with multi-classing or just be respect altogether to get some of these builds. I won't give too much detail on these builds, as I'll probably do a more in-depth video on each of these teams. And again, these are just sample teams that you could consider. The first build is what I'd call Stealth Team 4, which are a group of specialists that can perform a variety of roles but are adept in stealth. They are the Monk, the Rogue, the Ranger, and the Bard. The Monk would probably be a Shadow Monk, which has ways to create darkness and travel through their shadows, and can also perform the roles of the Frontline and Striker, in addition to the Specialist. The Ranger would be a Gloomstalker, which has bonuses when fighting from shadows. It can also be a little bit of a frontline and can also be a striker. But there's also ways to make it so you can be a little bit of a support too. The Bard and Rogue can be either subclass really, so the choice is completely yours. The Bard is incredibly versatile and can provide whatever role the rest of the team might be lacking. The Rogue could also choose to become an arcane trickster to provide some magic, although I think Thief and Assassin are better, but that's neither here nor there. This is a really fun team that excels at eliminating foes quickly with ambush tactics and a bit of planning. The second build is what I'd call the movie, which features a Barbarian, a Bard, a Druid, and a Sorcerer. For no real reason. Nope, not at all. Definitely works well together though. Sometimes. On to my favorite build, which is what I call the real Dead 3, or the Undead Army, or Squad, whatever. This is the Oathbreaker Paladin, a Necromancer Wizard, and the Spore Druid, which focus on creating tons of undead minions with the Oathbreaker there to buff them all with their aura. The next is what I call the Circus Act, which is a Barbarian, a Druid, a Bard, wait a minute, that sounds a bit too familiar. A Rogue. There we go, now it's unique. Or maybe even a Ranger. Make the Druid a small race though, so the Barbarian can throw them into the middle of combat and the Druid could shapeshift into a big beast out of nowhere. And then the Ranger, if you decide to go to Beastmaster, can also provide some more animals for your circus troop. On to the band, which is 4 bards, all fighting to be the face of the group. Each with a different instrument, they go on tour and perform different roles based on their build. The Valor Bard could be the singer as they sing their songs of war. The Swords Bard could be a violinist or drummer with the 2-weapon fighting style, and also bring 2 Lord Bards with different spell choices from their magical secrets to help cover different roles. Or, you could run 2 Swords Bards with completely different builds too, one duelist and the other one being 2-weapon fighting. And I could go on creating many more teams, but these are just some ideas you could run with. Anyhow, I really hope you enjoyed today's guide, and I can't wait to see the parties you've come up with. Let me know in the comments what your plans are. I'm not sure if I'll have time to make another proper guide video before launch, in which case expect to see some videos after launch, as I'll be busy playing just like the rest of you. And speaking of parties, if you'd like to group up and play Baldur's Gate 3 with me or others, feel free to join the Discord. I have tons of build I'd like to try, and I'll definitely be down to play multiple times. Anyways, thanks again for watching. I've been having a ton of fun making these videos, and even more fun interacting with all of you. Hope to see you all in the next video. Farewell for now.